What is going on, guys? Episode 56, The Blacklisted Voice. We are here with Sarah Howard. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it's early on the West Coast right now.
Yeah. On a Saturday. I just want you to know that I think that you're so awesome that I got up this morning to talk to you at 7 o'clock on a Saturday.
Well, we appreciate it. At least it's not Germany time now, or maybe it would be better if it was Germany time.
Yeah, yes, it would.
Well, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. You want to run through a little bit of background for people who maybe aren't super familiar with you?
Sure. I am the lifting flutist. That is my claim to fame, I guess. I am a musician professionally in the United States Air Force. I'm also a single mom and a coach and an aspiring master's athlete.
Heck
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, all of the things.
Yeah, you have quite a few hats
Yes.
that you're wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you play the flute in the Air Force
Mhm.
Band. And you've been a professional flutist for you said over 20 years now, right?
Yeah, I have a master's degree in music performance, and I did my master's at University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and ended up teaching for a little while in Baltimore, and then I
Mhm.
joined the Air Force. Been in the Air Force 16 years, playing flute for the Air Force. I know people are like, "What? Probably that's a thing? Can you do that?" Yes, you can. In the military, you can play music.
Yeah.
Um, it's actually a huge public relations tool. Hearts and
Mhm.
minds, we go into different countries and
Yeah.
communities and spread the Air Force message, and um
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we had I can't remember what he played, but he was in our boot camp class. He went into the Marine Corps band, and
Yeah,
he went all over the place in the Marine Corps, like nonstop traveling.
it's really like one of the best jobs for musicians because it's stable. Most
Yeah.
orchestras are funded by patrons, and so if patrons pull their money, like,
Um,
you don't have a job suddenly. And so the government would have to completely dismantle for me to lose my job.
right. Yeah,
As a musician, I think that it's extreme job security. So
totally. Yeah, that's sweet.
yeah,
um, yeah, how long so when did you danced before too as well, right?
yeah, I was a now be careful what you say, because you can't just say danced.
Sorry.
I'm someone's mother, Kyle. How dare
Yeah.
you? No, um, yeah, I was a ballerina. I did ballet for
Okay.
18 years. It's really funny if you see me, because you're like, what? She did ballet? Because I'm thick. I'm a thick chick. But I was not at that time. I was very, very small, had horrible eating habits. Just I think I'm naturally a muscular person, and being
Mhm.
in that environment, there was a lot of pressure to hide that.
For sure.
So yeah, I ended up quitting because my mother discovered I had an eating disorder, and she pulled me
Mm,
out of it, which is probably the
mhm.
best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
However, I think that a lot of what I learned in ballet translates to CrossFit, the body awareness and
Mm,
mobility, flexibility, strength and positions, all of that stuff. It's like really,
yeah.
really cool.
Totally, because so one of the kind of interesting things, kind of maybe jumping ahead here a little bit, but one of the interesting things that I've found as you as an athlete is there are not a lot of people that look at movement quality. There are people, but there's not a lot of CrossFitters who come into the sport and then look at movement quality as a priority. And that's something that when we first started up, you were like, hey, I'm with I-99. I'm doing this gymnastics training. I'm like really trying to perfect my positions. I've been doing this for the last year. And it takes a very kind of almost cerebral and unique CrossFit athlete to kind of fall into that and search for that, if that makes sense. Because it's not something that's like not a lot of CrossFitters look at that aspect of the sport. So I think that was something that was pretty cool when we first started, is you were actively looking for that.
I think, that sort of mindset I've developed also from music because
Mhm.
and teaching, when you're
Yeah.
like I've been teaching, as long as I've been playing,
Mhm.
or as long as I've been a professional. And I think it translates a lot to my coaching. I don't want to go out on the floor and tell someone to do something and be doing it wrong or in a way that they're going to hurt themselves. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like the lead by example mindset. Like
Yeah.
I want people to be like, wow, she moves really well and she's fast, or and she can lift a gajillion pounds, or she can do 20 bar muscle ups, and they all are beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah.
and efficient. So yeah. It's
Yeah.
hard though, because not every like you said, like not everyone thinks that way. And I think
Mhm.
my goal as a coach is to have people like really focus on being where they are and being okay with it and knowing that that's awesome. Like if you're just doing, 50 drills in a workout for your bar muscle ups, like that's awesome because you're going to have 50 bar muscle ups later and it's not going to be hard for you.
Mhm.
Like be where you are is awesome. Just think of it like that, I guess.
Yeah, and it's so tough sometimes to kind of to add on to that is like I personally think CrossFit is driven by the CrossFit Games. And so you have all these people who come into classes having watched like these amazing athletes, or maybe they have one in their gym and they see them doing, like you said, 20 unbroken bar muscle ups and they look perfect. And they're like, oh, well, that's CrossFit. I'm just going to go and do this. And then they get frustrated when they're not at that capacity. And it's like, look, like you have to remember they spent 5 years developing that capacity. Like
Hmm.
they didn't just walk into the gym and start doing that. Like it took them a long time. They probably started out with 50 drills in a workout and then started to build from there. And
And
so
that's the
that
other thing
mindset,
too, is like genetics plays a huge role in
huge.
that.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
people ask me all the time, because I'm 43 years old. I'm
Mhm.
very strong for my age.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very strong at all, but especially for my age.
Yes.
And it's something that that's what I pride myself on, is the first thing I focused in on when I started doing CrossFit. And I've had people ask me like, how long did it take you to be able to clean 200 pounds? And
Mhm.
I don't have a number in my head. Like I have no idea, but it
Mhm.
came quick. Like
Right.
within the first 2 years of me doing CrossFit,
Right.
I could clean 200 pounds,
Right.
probably less than that actually. And, it's because my dad is a hoss. Like he is huge. My dad is a huge guy,
Yeah.
and I have like the mental fortitude of my mother. So that combination, genetics is
Right.
huge. If you don't
Huge.
have strong people in your family, it's probably going to take you longer,
Right. Right. Right.
and strength takes years.
Yeah, yeah, and like the background of the individual too, like kind of like you had said before, is like you grew up doing dance or ballerina and like learned the kinesthetic awareness from that. So like that is going to be huge when you go to learn how to manipulate your body around a barbell. And it's like you had 18 years of that. You have great genetics and for CrossFit or liftings, and you're going to pick that up specifically really quickly.
That's
And
why I say your journey is your own. Be where
yes,
you are, not where anyone else is. Who cares what other people are doing? I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
like be where you are.
Yeah, yeah. Everything will come in its time for you.
100%. 100%. I
Yeah.
mean, I sometimes I think about like where I am now. I mean,
Mhm,
we've talked about this. I have been pursuing high level competitive CrossFit for a long time. And,
mhm.
life gets in the way. I lived in Germany for 5 years. I had to move
Right.
across the world. Like, I'm a single mom. I don't always have time to train the way that I want to.
Mhm.
I have a high stress job. Even though I play flute, it's high stress. Um, so
Yes.
there's all of these life factors that, go into that. And I just have to be where I am in the moment and put the energy and effort that I have at the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, sorry, we're
It's
kind of all
yeah.
over the place right now.
This is usually how my podcast works. That's how my
Yeah,
brain works, is all over the place.
no,
So,
it's good. It's good.
yeah. Yeah, I think one big thing too is like people miss or maybe they just don't understand is like if you focus on the end result, like your end result is like, I want to compete at the CrossFit Games, right? And if you focus on that, you're only going to see how much you have to travel
Mm,
instead of that next step and that next step and that next step, and focusing on just that next step. And all of a sudden, step after step, you're at your goal. And I think people focus too much on the end result versus just, hey, what are the steps that I need to take to get to that result?
exactly. 100%. Absolutely. I mean, it's a constant battle too. Like you have these like mental or like brain discussions with yourself. Like right after the qualifiers,
Mhm.
I was hesitant to even do the open this year. I didn't want to do
Right.
it. And I
Right.
think that if I hadn't signed on with you, I probably would have not done it for the second
Hmm.
year in a row.
Hmm.
Because I in my mind, I think I was thinking about, everything that I've been through leading up to this point
Hmm.
and what people were going to think about where I should be. And I
Hmm.
had to have, this is when I started talking to Dawn
Yeah.
Fletcher, and, just realizing like where I am is pretty awesome.
Hmm.
What I'm capable of is even more awesome.
Hmm.
And I just have to like stay in that place. I can't look too far ahead and I can't look back at all. Like looking back is
Right.
not, it's not productive at
Yes.
all,
Right. Right.
and comparing yourself, like, because that was the other thing, there are women in my age group that are competing at the games and placing, high in the top 10, top 5 at the games. And I have competed with them, like
Hmm.
alongside them. Some of
Hmm.
them, in the past have beat them in workouts. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, man, if I was doing this or if I was doing that, then I would be right there with them.
Right.
And
Right.
it's not productive to think that way. I've had to really shift my thought and just be where I am. Like I'm smashing my personal goals are getting
Yes.
smashed day after day after day. Every week there's a milestone where I'm like, holy shit, I just jumped up and did 13, chest bars last week.
Yeah.
Unbroken.
Yep.
And in the video, if you look at the video, I'm like, I come down and I'm like, what? Like what just happened? Was that me? Yeah, that's freaking me, man.
Yeah.
And we've still got a year left of training. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, be
Yeah.
where you are.
Yeah. It's yeah. And I didn't I'm kind of bummed because I didn't necessarily get to see the whole evolution of the kind of mindset that you were able to kind of cultivate here. Because when did you start this? When did you start working with Don? And this is Don Fletcher, correct?
Yes, Don Fletcher, Driven Mind Training. So I moved here in August. I think I
Hmm.
started working with her October, November timeframe.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was close to when I signed on with
Close.
you, maybe like
Yeah.
a few months.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but it was funny too because my conversation with her, my conversation with you, like when we first started, was very similar because
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, this is great. Okay, yeah, you've been through a lot of things because I had a lot of trauma in the process of
Right.
moving from Germany. And she's like, are you going to therapy? She's asking me like all of these questions. Are you going to therapy? Do you have a support network? Are you do you meditate? Like, are you
Yeah.
all of these questions? You asked me the same sort of thing. And I was like, oh, okay. So as I'm developing my team of people, like I already had Anthony, who is
Hmm.
awesome from I-99. I'm at this really great gym where everyone is supportive, CrossFit Vacaville North. Like as soon as I walked through the doors, they were, there for me. Those people are amazing.
Testament. I
Um,
was on FaceTime with Monica. Very cool.
oh yeah, that's my girl.
Yeah.
That's my girl. Like for real. And it's so weird because I haven't been here that long. I haven't even been here a year, but like I've
Right.
connected with so many people there.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
having you, it's like all of these, everything comes into place at the time that it should when you're ready.
Totally.
I have
Yep.
time now. I'm going to be here for, at least 4 years, maybe longer.
Mhm.
And I have a support network. And that's something I think that I didn't have in the past.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not that I wasn't supported because I have really great friends like my gym in Germany, Teutonic. They I still, they're my family. I still talk to them all the
Yeah.
time. But like, I think that I didn't have like the coach and, the mentor like Dawn. I mean, she's like a mind genie.
Right.
She really is. Like, she,
Yeah.
even when you think you're thinking, in a productive way, she can be like, how can we reframe this to make it even better,
Yeah.
more productive for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, having a team of people is key.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that that is something that people underestimate or miss out on, or is it hard to get to that point in your life when you do can kind of like have a team supporting you? Does that make sense?
Yes, it is hard. It is hard because, well, first of all, there's the financial side of it, right? Like,
Right.
it's not like you guys are just helping me for free.
Yeah.
You have to pay for it. But I also, I mean, I have a career, and,
Mhm.
I'm smart with my money and stuff. And I believe that your wellness, mental and physical wellness should be a priority, and
Mhm.
it's an investment. That's how I
Yeah.
consider it. What I'm learning, I have this big goal of going to the games, but
Mhm.
what I'm learning along the way is that these strategies, like for mindset, or even for like taking care of my body, like the fact that I don't have knee pain anymore from working with you, like,
Legit.
yeah, these are things that will carry me into old age when
For
I'm not
sure.
competing anymore. I will have all of this stuff, and I won't be paying you guys at that point, when I'm 80 years
Yeah.
old. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I will have invested into my mental wellness and my physical wellness. And
Yeah.
that's what I think is important. For people who can't afford those sort of things, like, I mean, Dawn, she offers information from her Instagram pages,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so do you. I mean, you post workouts and tips on how to move, and same thing with
Mhm.
I-99. Like, there are resources if you look for them, if you're willing to look for them. Um, you can definitely still have a support network. You just don't have the people talking to you all the time and checking in, like
Yeah.
Sarah. I mean, my nutrition, that's the other person I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
part of the team. I mean, that's key because
For sure.
Lord knows I like to eat, man.
Food is great.
Ooh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
But when you're like a perimenopausal woman, like eating all the time and eating crazy things is not a good idea.
I think just our clientele in general is like just a little bit more on the powerful side. And like when you're a stronger athlete, like your body just craves glucose too. And glucose is starting to be shown to be like I mean, it raises insulin, and there's a theory that insulin raises, I mean, it does raise muscle mass. So it's like almost like a hypertrophy component. I mean, there are so many times that I get done with a workout and I'm like, I need a soda. You know,
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. I know it's
it's
hard too because I think, I have this like mental trauma from being a dancer or
yeah.
ballerina.
Mhm.
And, the things that people said to me in my impressionable years. I mean, I was, when you're in your early teens, if someone's
Yeah.
saying, like, I remember I had a ballet teacher who, before a performance, because she could hear me breathing, I had to do like, I was like a sugar plum fairy, and I had to do these um, turns in a circle, and I was breathing heavy.
Mhm.
And she said she could hear me breathing from the stage. And so she made me, before every performance, eat like a tub of broccoli. Now, what benefit does that have? Yeah,
Oh man, it's so mind blowing.
it's
Like how,
crazy.
yeah, just how, like, it's cool that like mental health and like kind of like healthier thought processes have come to the forefront within the last 10 years. But man, like looking back on how much damage we've done to individuals, I think especially to females, like forcing them into these sports that are, or maybe not forcing them, but like forcing them into, an ideal body type for their sport. I think it's just done so much damage to ladies. Like
I agree.
And it's just like, it's sad to see. And like,
I think I'm kind of a testimony of how you can be affected and then unaffected by that.
totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because even after I had my son, he's almost 15.
hmm
I was like, I really into running and yoga, probably eating 1,200 calories a day.
Yeah.
I was a fraction of myself. I was hungry all the time. I was tired all the time. I was
hmm
angry.
hmm hmm
And I discovered CrossFit, and you cannot not eat and do CrossFit.
yeah. I
Like
mean, you can, but it doesn't work well.
no, I mean, you probably would pass out or,
Yeah.
have a heart attack or something terrible would happen, and so I started, it was weird because I was addicted to the adrenaline rush of it, but
Yeah.
then I was like, why I can't eat. And I remember my first year of CrossFit, actually, this is really funny. My first year of CrossFit, I got really hooked on Burger King Whopper with cheese.
Ooh, that
That was
sounds.
I would just eat the Whopper, 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 Whopper. Like after a workout, you talk about you and a soda. I wanted a Whopper. It was terrible.
That's awesome.
And when I was in Germany, I was doing Olympic weightlifting with Sage
Mhm,
Bergener. She was
mhm,
like a remote coach for me for a while,
mhm.
and I used to send her feedback videos after I would finish a workout and
Okay.
just tell her how I felt, and and one of them, I'm like leaving the gym and I'm talking to her on the car, and I'm like, yeah, I had a great workout, this happened, whatever. I thought I shut off the camera. I go through the drive-through at Burger King, and I'm not thinking anything of it, and I get a video back from her the next day, and she's like, hey girl, so I would love a Whopper with cheese too. And I went back and watched the video, and literally, like, you see me, and I'm like looking around. I press the window button of my car. It's like, zzz, welcome to Burger King.
Dude,
I was like, oh my God, I've been caught.
that's hilarious.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a funny moment. But I think it's important to eat what you want to, and make sure that you have like a mechanism of moderation.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
if you deprive yourself of the things that you want to eat, you will not be happy.
Mhm. And
you know,
more
I'm
than
much happier.
likely,
Go ahead. Sorry.
it'll be a rebound effect too. Like you'll go way over.
Yeah,
So what
absolutely.
so what kind of mechanisms for moderation have you found that like have worked for you?
So right now, actually, I think I'm in a good rhythm. We had talked about like not tracking
hmm
right now. Because tracking, it's while I love cerebral things, I sometimes need a break from that stuff.
For
And
sure.
it was starting to get to the point where I was just like feeling stressed out about
hmm
it. But I still measure. I still
Okay.
measure my food. I'm still weighing my food. I'm just not, writing down exactly what I've eaten, because
hmm
I think
hmm
it kind of gives me some boundaries. Like
Okay.
instead of just eyeballing and just eating for feel, I'm like, I know that I can have 8 ounces of chicken today.
hmm
Like I just
hmm
know I can do that.
Yeah.
If I eat more than 8 ounces, then that's probably a problem. So I won't
Okay.
overfill my plate, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I also have like that childhood trauma of like cleaning your plate, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You better eat this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a moderation mechanism for me. And also
Yeah.
just like not being stupid, like you shouldn't eat the whole cake. You know that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like what was it? Jason Ackerman used to say, don't eat like an asshole.
Don't eat like an asshole. Yeah.
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 Like have the donut, but don't have the whole box of donuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So almost having that conversation, or like maybe not conversation, but compromising with yourself a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. hmm I mean,
Yeah.
that carries into life too, you know.
Right.
It's like, should I do this or should I not? Like take a beat and ask yourself that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So do you think like along those lines, like, okay, you were to start compromising, like, hey, I'm gonna have one donut versus the whole box of donuts. Like, do you think you get to the point eventually where it's like, okay, I'm gonna have half of a donut versus one donut, and it's like a slow kind of like trickle effect into creating better habits? Or does that kind of make sense? Or
Yes, I think that ideally that yes, it does make sense. If I'm being honest with myself, if I pull out the whole donut, I'm going to eat the whole donut. But I'm
okay,
going to make
yeah,
sure that I can. You know,
yeah,
like throughout the day, like to me, that's eating half of the portion of oatmeal that I would eat normally in the morning, to
oh,
sub
okay,
out for that, or like, even the fat that's in donuts, like, just thinking about how you can balance it with the other things that you're eating.
okay,
Um,
yeah,
Man, food is hard.
yeah, oh yeah, I
I
feel
think
you.
with everything, that's what I struggle with the most is
Yeah.
mhm.
Is yeah, yeah. And I've been having this conversation a little bit more with people. But like so like everybody has something in the sport that they will always have to work on. Always. It'll always be in their either their design, it'll always be a part of their like daily routine. And honestly, it might be one or two things as well, you know? Like for example, I'm a bigger athlete. I always have to be working on gymnastics. As much as I dislike working on gymnastics and doing static holds, et cetera, et cetera, if I want to compete, I have to have those in the sport. And then I
Mhm.
also have to be constantly aware of what I'm eating, and whether it's in that window of like, hey, you're not eating enough and now you're fucking sleeping all day, or hey, you're eating too much and now you're 240 pounds trying to compete in a sport of 195-pound dudes. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like there's always something that you're constantly going to have to work on. And for some people it might be strength and eating more, and some people it might be aerobic work and eating more to sustain that aerobic work. But there's always, if you truly want to be competitive, you'll figure out a way to make those things work for you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is what has helped me, I remember when I first started working with Jason, he was
Mhm.
like, give me 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks of tracking, being right on top of things.
Mhm.
And it's weird because that's just enough time for you to really develop a habit. So if you
Okay.
tell yourself, instead of saying, I need to start eating like this and
Oh,
just
interesting. Yeah.
going like into it, give yourself
Yeah.
a little bit of like, I can do this for whatever's manageable to you, a week, 2 days,
Okay.
a day, you know,
Yeah,
um, because it takes time to develop habits.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So that was kind of something that worked well for you, was like, just, hey, for weeks, I'm just going to be on this. And then at
Yeah.
the end of the 2 weeks, you were like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, I mean, that's probably the next discussion that I need to have with Sarah is like, what is my timeline for doing this? Because, I'll put my feet up and lay back and just, keep going.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I have like a timeline, um, it helps me, I guess, manage it better
For
and not
sure.
do stupid things. So
Yeah. 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 So kind of coming back to the find the resources thing that we were talking about. So like, is that kind of like the best advice you would give to somebody who like is maybe in your position, or is wanting to improve but maybe doesn't have the financial means to kind of like improve? Is it just go on Instagram and find as many pages that you can possibly find, or
no. No, don't do that. No, because there's idiots out there too. Like so
yeah.
I think for me, now that I know how to do gymnastics in an efficient and safe way, when I see drills or people like, with bands wrapped around their necks and arms and stuff, it's like, no, of course not. I think that you have to be smart. Like when I found you, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of
Yeah.
research. I did comparison with other coaches,
Mhm.
pricing. Um, I talked to my friends. I have friends that work with you.
Mhm.
Um, I like made sure that when I reached out that it wasn't like, hey, I'm testing you out. It's like, hey, I want you to be my coach. Do you want to be my
Mhm.
coach? you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so and it takes time to do that, right?
For sure.
If you don't have money, you probably have time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people do take an hour a day. focus on what you want, you're interested in looking for, if it's mindset coaching or,
Mhm.
looking for a CrossFit coach or programming or whatever, and really do your research. Look for well balanced programming, look for people who have experience.
Mhm.
I think experience over credentials.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
internet is going to hate me for saying that, but like,
Hang on.
I'm sorry, experience over credentials. I'm always going to say that. Like, I don't care if you're, level 4 super, you know, CrossFitter of the universe.
Yeah.
If you don't have the experience, and usually those people do, I will say that. Usually those
Yeah.
people do, but,
Yeah.
um, I'm not going to start working with somebody who hasn't been to the games.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yep.
this is my goal.
I
My
need
mom
somebody
used to
to.
say, surround yourself with people who are where you want to be.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yeah, look for people who are where you want to be, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So that would be kind of the best advice is like find somebody who has done what you want to accomplish, and then kind of start following them and figure out like kind of reworking what their thought processes are, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Well, and a lot of times too, if you just reach out to those people, the conversation is free. Usually, the conversation about having a coach is free,
Mhm.
and sometimes they will give you resources.
Mhm.
If they can't help you, they will give you other resources if they're good people.
Yeah.
you know so I mean, I would, if somebody DM'd me on Instagram or Facebook and they wanted to know. Watch, now my Instagram's gonna blow up. But seriously, like, I would absolutely, tell them where to look. I would
Yeah. Yeah.
help
Yep.
them figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So reach out to people.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
100%.
I like it. Um, so you are obviously in the military. You also have a busy schedule and you are trying to be super competitive in CrossFit. Also a mom.
Mhm.
How do you balance all this stuff?
I get asked this question a lot. I do, because it seems impossible, right? Insurmountable. I travel for my job,
Mhm.
um, but also, like, when I'm home, I'm working a regular 8-hour day. I
Mhm.
have a 15-year-old, which anyone who has teenagers knows how challenging that can be. The good thing is he's pretty self-sufficient, so I don't have to be on him all the time. It's a lot easier now than it was. I coach. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, but I think it's just my life,
Mhm.
you know. And if you have to, you have to live, right? You
Right.
figure it out. I
Yeah.
don't, there's no, like, magical formula that I could tell people on how I manage. Um, I take care of my mental health.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
see a therapist. I, have body work done every week. I
Mhm.
meditate. I, talk to my friends. Like, I definitely take care of my mental health first. That's the most important thing out of
Okay.
everything. And
Yeah.
then everything else falls in line. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that maybe that's the magic pill, is like, get therapy.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
talk to someone, because you have trauma. No matter if you think your life was great, if you had, two-parent household and went to soccer every week and everything was good, there's probably some things that you have in your brain that you don't know are affecting you.
Yeah. Yeah. And and that's kind of from like a subconscious standpoint, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have had some things, obviously, that have affected me, but as
Mhm.
I've dealt with those things, trauma that I didn't even realize was affecting how I function in life started coming
Mhm.
up, you know.
Yeah.
And I think now, because I've actually attacked the mental health side of things,
Mhm.
I'm the clearest and freest I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most confident. I'm able to, like, rationalize things and see things from different angles, and I'm able to be a better mom. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the most important thing, is teaching my son how to navigate life and
Yeah.
not be affected by crazy things happening around you.
Okay.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and boundaries, I think. Oh, that. boundaries, telling people, hey, I need a minute, or I am not able to do this right now, but I could do it later. Or, whatever it is, whatever the boundary is, being able to set boundaries is like, woof, that's been the key for me for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel like that was kind of uh like something that was from past trauma, was you weren't able to create those boundaries, and as you started working on your mental health, that kind of started to come to the forefront of your thought process, and that's kind of how
Absolutely.
you started doing that?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I think when you prioritize yourself, which is not
Yeah.
how we are, it's ingrained in us. Like, it's take care of everyone around you,
Hmm. Hmm.
make everyone else feel good. But like, I started prioritizing me. If I didn't feel
Yeah.
good, I didn't do it, and I didn't, you have to stop caring what everyone else thinks about that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not selfish to care about yourself,
Yeah.
and when you're good, you can be good for other people.
Okay. Yep. So you kind of take almost like a you first mentality so that you can put other people first. Is
Yes.
that kind of accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at my life, like,
Mhm.
you wouldn't think that I was first.
Yeah, right.
At work, I mean, I have a position where I have to take care of people.
Mhm.
I have to be a sounding board for people. I have to tell people what to do,
Mhm.
taking care of my son, taking care of people at the gym,
Mhm.
there I am constantly taking care of other people, but you better freaking believe that I'm good. I'm first.
Yeah.
I'm okay before I'm doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not productive. Your energy is infectious. And I know
Right.
for somebody like me, I walk into a room and immediately people can feel what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So if I'm like, oh, walking into a room, everyone else is gonna be like, oh shit. Like,
What's going? Uh-oh.
are we gonna be okay today?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
take care of yourself first, always.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is some advice you could give for that? I know you had mentioned therapy, but like what other kind of things can somebody do to kind of take care of themselves first?
Um, you know, People say, oh, I don't have time to take care of me. But I can always find like 5 minutes in the day. If I'm
Hmm.
at work and I'm feeling some kind of way, I'll literally just go outside and walk around,
Hmm.
just to take a breath. Or even that, like, I have an Apple Watch and it reminds me to breathe. Like just sometimes taking in air because you don't realize how tense you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take in air, and it doesn't take a long time to do that. You have a minute, 1 minute
Right.
in the day
Right.
where you can do that.
Yeah.
Um, but I do have, like I said, I have body work weekly. Um, but that's again an investment in me.
Right. Right.
But you can stretch. Like there's there are so many things. There's so many things.
Yeah.
Um, I shut myself in my room sometimes. Like if I get home from work and I say to my son, hey, buddy, I need to take like 5 minutes for me.
Mhm.
And he'll be like, okay, he gets
Yeah.
it. He does the
Yeah.
same thing, which is
Right.
healthy.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right. So
yeah,
it's more so take finding the time to take the time to just disconnect from everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Prioritize 5 minutes of your day to do something for yourself.
Do
Nobody
you,
else.
do you think
Nobody
that,
else.
yeah, do you think that that is kind of a little bit more of like an introverted style of taking care of yourself? And do you think there's other like extroverted ways of taking care of
Oh,
yourself? Does
sure.
that kind of make sense?
Yeah. It's funny you say that because most people think I'm an extrovert, but I am an introvert. I don't like people.
I know.
I
I'm
don't. I
kidding.
like to be poop inside.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I mean, go for a hike, like, skydive, whatever, whatever makes your heart happy. I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the answer. That,
Okay. Yeah.
whatever makes your heart happy for just you, though. You have to
Yeah.
ask yourself that question,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
you
I'm
know.
I'm sure there are people out there who like if they were like shut myself in my room, that
Right.
sounds so miserable. Like I'd be drained if I did that. You know.
Shoot.
where
Yeah.
like other people are like, shut myself in my room. Can I have a whole year like that? Like,
Yeah. Sounds amazing.
yeah.
That's funny though, because sometimes I ride in the car when I'm alone in the car. I
Mhm.
don't listen to music at all.
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of like your time to decompress a little bit.
yeah, it's distracting to me. Because there's so many things going on in my mind
Hmm.
that I already hear noise. So it's like
Hmm.
extra
Hmm.
noise.
Hmm.
And getting that to slow down. Like I'm a person who has a quick mind. Like it's
Hmm.
just going, going, going. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this.
Hmm. Hmm.
And being able to silence that's a challenge. So the less distractions, the better. I guess that's why I would shut myself in my room and be quiet. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it tends to slow your mind down a little bit?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, but
Uh,
you do have to think about the things that make your heart happy.
yeah. 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 I guess speaking from like an extroverted standpoint is a little bit tough because I'm also on a little bit more on the introverted side than extroverted side.
Yeah,
So yeah, it'd be interesting to get an extrovert's perspective on that and what they would find enjoyable.
I
I
would
mean,
like
I
to know.
have I have friends that like love to go out, and that's kind of like they almost like get recharged from going out at night, and it's like they're like getting like 4 hours of sleep, and I'm like, oh, I'd be fucking dead.
That sounds like
You
a
know?
nightmare.
Yeah, right.
That sounds like a nightmare. Like not last weekend, the weekend before, I did a I-99 seminar with Dave Bradley.
Mhm,
And I was kind of co-coaching with him, but also, learning from him.
mhm,
And he has the most dynamic personality of anyone I've ever met. Like he is
mhm.
just on. And I'm like, wow, this is, I'm like, this is great. And
Yeah,
when I got home after the first night, like he stayed at my house
yeah.
and I was like, yeah, we're gonna go to dinner at like 7. And I was like, I just need a minute. And I laid down, I didn't wake up till like 10:30. I didn't realize how tired I was because I mean, it was awesome. His energy is so big, but it's like you're saying, like when you're around a bunch of people, it drains you. If you're an
Yeah,
introvert, it drains you. Yeah.
yeah. You need to find that time to kind of recharge. He was ready to go though. Like he was constantly just like bouncing
Yeah.
off the walls.
I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it because it's fascinating to me to watch
Yeah,
him. I mean,
yeah.
he's spewing information and like, from this person to this person to this person. If you ever get a chance to do an I-99 seminar with him, like it's I don't know how I could emulate that. Like
Yeah.
it's
That
it's
yeah,
insane.
that's interesting. It would be cool to get his perspective on like how he feels after a seminar. Like,
Well, he fell asleep too. He was like supposed to be doing some video reviews and he said he like sat down on the bed and then he woke up and he had his phone in his hand.
so it's got okay. So it's got to be draining for him then too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because when we did the podcast with him, it seemed like he was a little bit more of kind of like a. It seems like he can like really put out the energy, but
Yeah.
then afterwards, he seemed like a little bit more introverted too.
Yeah, it was fire. Like I've
Yeah,
worked with both him and Anthony in that situation and it's yeah, I don't even know how I could ever coach that many people the way that they do and get the information into their brains. It's
yeah,
pretty impressive. It's impressive.
yeah. Do you think that's like a perspective? So like they like you grew up teaching, right? Like actual classroom teaching,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they grew up teaching gymnastics, right? Do you think it's a difference in like, hey, in this 45-minute session, I'm going to try and get you this movement, and you can see progress a little bit faster sometimes in that, where like you're like, hey, over this 3 or 4 month period, we have this curriculum to study.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's how it works with music. It's very rare that you have students that catch on, especially with flute. I mean, the first 3 lessons of a beginning flute player is literally going, okay, hold it here. Okay, below, no, below,
Mm,
no, below. Like making a sound on the flute takes weeks for most kids.
okay. Yeah.
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 You know what? When we meet in person, I'm going to have you try it. It'll be hilarious.
Well, I played the clarinet growing up, so
Oh,
I know I
okay.
take it back. I played it for 2 years. I played the drums longer. So
Even more reason to see if you can actually do it.
play the clarinet,
No, play the flute.
flute. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd definitely try it.
Okay. All right. Bet we're gonna do it.
Okay. Do I just have to make a noise out of the instrument or
Yeah. Just make a
okay.
noise. Yeah. You don't have to hit the keys. You're good.
Yeah, that's the tough part for me.
Yeah. For most people, it is like once you make a sound, it's like what these finite movements. I call musicians athletes of the small muscles because we are.
I mean, that's very true. To watch like a professional musician, I went back and I watched an orchestra recently. I was looking up the Predator soundtrack and it had an orchestra video of it. It's super
So
weird.
weird.
But like to watch it's just so amazing to watch the individuals be able to read the music and maybe they have it memorized or some parts of it, but then to be able to process that and make the adjustments on the instrument at the same time is super impressive to me.
Finite
Yeah.
movement. That's why I think I
Yeah.
was attracted to Olympic lifting so much because it's
Mhm.
similar. You know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
movements are very, very finite, you know. And for someone whose brain like processes things that way, I like to pick everything apart, even
For sure.
gymnastics. That's why I got
Right.
into that.
Yeah. 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 And that's, I mean, that kind of brings it back to like the movement that we were talking about is that you probably just gravitated towards it. It's not like, it's like, how do I break this down to its most finite, you know, structure and then
Mhm.
expand upon it from there.
Yeah, that's so I mean, when you talk about it like that, it makes me sound crazy. So
Like at
I'm
some
not
point,
crazy.
I mean, but like if you're truly gonna elicit the most efficient movement, you have to do something like that, you know?
Absolutely.
And
Oh,
then
can you
and
say that again? Because for the people in the back, like,
yeah, right. Because like there's a base level of movement that you have to truly understand as a person before you can start to get creative with the movement and manipulate the
absolutely.
movement. And until you understand that base level, which requires you to literally break it down into its like most finite movement, and until you understand that and can work with that, you can't work on manipulating the movement efficiently from that standpoint.
Or without injury safely. I think that's the biggest
Mhm.
thing is like, yeah,
Yeah.
I love that, there's a lot of CrossFit fit athletes that have brute strength,
Mhm.
like you can
Mhm.
deadlift 500 pounds, but I don't want to watch you clean, a 300-pound clean crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
horrifying to watch. I
Just
can
like
see the
wonky
injuries
leg.
happening.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you know, it's not
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and speaking from example, like I was, I've always had a fascination with kind of the movement of it, but I was fortunate to have coaches that had the fascination with the movement. And so that was kind of like ingrained in me. And then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. So like I wouldn't say that I necessarily move the best for the sport, but it is something that kind of like has always fascinated me. That allowed me to kind of like experiment a lot with, different components of the movement to kind of grow my coaching
Mhm.
vocabulary, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but when I first started, I was just snatch, okay, just get it off the ground. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I started when that was CrossFit. um, but like, I suffered the repercussions from that. Great. I mean, my body is still like I'm starting to like train and compete again, and like I have so many flare ups. Like I went into this experience with something torn in my shoulder, like
Oh
because
man.
I didn't move well, like 5 years or 3 years into the sport. So it's like um those are super like that is almost the biggest reason is like if you want to have longevity in this sport, like one, don't fucking burn yourself out doing the sport all the time, and
Yeah.
then two, move well.
That's a overtraining. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've definitely been there down there too. I won't name the programming that I was using, but I early in my competitive CrossFit stage. I mean, I started CrossFit late. I think I was like 35 or 36 when I started
Hmm.
getting competitive with it.
Hmm.
And I was doing 2-a-days as a
Yeah.
35-year-old,
Yeah.
36-year-old. And
Yeah.
that's just stupid. I'm 2-a-days working full-time single momming.
And probably those 2 days were super intense, would be my
Absolutely.
assumption.
I was exhausted afterwards. I wasn't eating the proper amount of macros. I ended up having some a flare up with my liver. Like my liver enzymes were high.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy, you know.
Yeah.
I think, and that's the thing. Like when you're talking to your athletes, you're speaking from experience. Remember how
Right.
I said like experience over credentials? You're
Yeah.
speaking from something that has happened to you that you don't want to see happen to them.
Right. Right.
That's
Yeah.
that's why I coach gymnastics. That's why, like, I had an athlete come up to me. This is a couple weeks ago at the gym. I'm not a hugger. I make that very clear when I meet people. If I go in for it, then we're good. But like, don't try to take it from me because it'll make me. I'm just like ah. And I was sitting on a bench like in between sets, and he comes over and he just like slowly puts his arms around me, and I was like, wow. I was like, why are you touching me? Get off me. And he goes, and whispers in my ear, he's like, thank you so much for your gymnastics class because I finally can snatch again. My shoulders feel so healthy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I can
Yeah.
relax because it was warranted. I wish he had like prepped me for it. But like when you have experiences like that as a coach,
Yeah.
where someone comes to you and says, I couldn't do this and I thought I would
And
never
now,
do it again, and now I
mhm.
can.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's
Huge.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yep.
how I felt about my right knee. I have a torn meniscus, osteoarthritis, just like I can't, horrible mobility or had.
Mhm.
And you didn't even tell me we were working on my knee. That's the other thing. You were like, do this exercise. And I'm
Yep.
like, okay, I trust you. Do this in your warm up. Okay. You were like, we're strengthening the posterior chain. I was like, all right, whatever,
All
cool. I'm
right.
like, my ass is gonna get bigger. That's great.
Great.
Um, or not. Anyway, and then I cleaned, what was it, 225? I got under 225
Yeah.
the week
Yeah.
before the qualifier
Yep.
with
I
no
think that's
pain.
what it was. Yeah. 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 I mean, and what's cool is how quickly that happened. One. And then two, like when we were in testing, I think I had you be able to do a squat clean. It was like 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And you're like, I power clean more than I squat clean. I'm like, okay, we'll test the squat clean and see. And that was a true statement.
Yeah.
and and I mean now, and yeah, you cleaned 215,
220.
220, yeah,
Mhm.
cleaned 220 with no knee pain in pretty much a 3 to 4 month period. And that's, again, I think going back to kind of like the time for yourself is like, also you need to slow yourself down sometimes. And
Mhm.
like taking a proverbial step back is like, we didn't really take a step back, but we kind of took a step back, and now you took 2 steps forward, right? And like that, I think, is something like loss aversion is something that CrossFitters have a super hard time with in regards to their performance. And they get so fixated on quote unquote taking a step back that they literally won't take a step back. And now they've tapped their ceiling for
Yeah.
what they're capable of, because their body will not adapt to anything else. um and that, I think, is another huge like learning and talking point that I personally had, like growing up, or growing in the sport, and something I think would be awesome if a lot of other CrossFitters could understand.
And well, I mean, it ties right into the mental side of things too. It's like
Yeah.
you have to have the mental fortitude to realize that like you're not losing anything.
Right.
You're not like,
Right.
for me to lose strength, I would have to like not lift for years.
You literally years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Like I'm always gonna be strong as long as
yeah.
I'm doing this sport. It doesn't matter
Right.
what I'm doing in the sport. We
Right.
weren't we weren't working on, squats
We had
for my clean technique or any of that. We weren't working on that stuff.
I think we had you lifting like 2 times a week leading up.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing with my like more powerful athletes is like I especially the females, I have them lift 2 times a week. And you hit 3 lifetime PRs, lifetime
Crazy.
in the total. So,
and I still had more in the tank. That was the thing. Like I wanted to keep going. Like,
yeah.
Was...
Yeah. So I think that is, I think it's so hard to get people to buy into that because people are so focused on the finite and the moment. And but if you can take the big picture approach and look at the whole season and the season as a whole, like your room for progress is just going to be exponentially higher.
Yeah. And the message is trust the process and trust your coaches. Like very simple. I mean, usually I'm not like, actually, I don't think I've ever been like, I don't think I want to do that, or I'm not sure if this is good for me. I'm just like, okay, Kyle, you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I trust you.
Yeah.
Implicitly when it comes to my fitness, for sure. You're the guy that knows, and I think the more that you see me move, the even more, you'll be able to help me with.
Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of interesting about remote coaching is like like seeing the videos that you guys post, like you start to learn the athlete a little bit more. And you can kind of like dial in their progressions a little bit more and what they need, specific exercises, et cetera. And so the videos are always helpful.
Well, I will keep sending them as long as you keep helping me. We're good.
Yeah.
We have an agreement.
Sweet. Well, I think we're at about close to an hour here. So cool with wrapping it up.
Sure. Yeah, I have to go work out.
Yeah, same.
And coach, we're doing a I-99 seminar this weekend. So
yeah, sweet. How do people get a hold of you if they have some questions on things?
Find me on Instagram, lifting flutist. One word, no capitals, lifting flutist. Yeah. You can shoot me a message there.
Yeah, sweet. Well, thanks for listening, guys. If you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at blacklisted.hq. And we will catch you guys next time. Thanks for coming on, Sarah.
Yeah, you bet. Yay.